Sorry. Okay. All right. Okay. Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Constance Craig, and I will be discussing living together before marriage. Professor Perry, hi. Good morning, and to my classmates. Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. How many people in the room actually think that living together before marriage is a good or a bad idea?
I say it's a good idea.
How many think it's a bad idea? How many think it's a good idea? How many actually believe in the notion that marriage is sacred and in the eyes of the believer and living together is considered a sin? How many people actually think it can actually lead to divorce quicker? There's many views and opinions, obviously, regarding this topic, and every individual has a right, of course, to their own belief. I wanted to personally give you my story about living together before marriage. My husband, Andre Craig, was my pre-spouse for 10 years, and we lived together, and I think it is probably one of the best decisions that we ever made regarding our relationship. To this day, we've been married as of 8 years, and I think because we live together, that has actually helped with the longevity of our relationship, because we're going, it's 20 years to this date. We were both able to get a chance to exclusively get to know each other, mentally, physically, and spiritually, before we knew that our bond together would be forever. It's not the same for everybody. But our views were just that. They were our views. Interesting enough, though, 20 years ago when we did this, a lot of people were not on board with this. A lot of people considered it still taboo, controversial, and it was very hush-hush. Nowadays, though, it's quite different. A lot of people nowadays actually give into the part of a trial relationship, getting into something, testing it out before you buy into it for life. That's how I look at living together. I don't want to exclude anybody whose beliefs are of the opposite of mine. The purpose of this speech is to not persuade you all to go against something that you feel morally responsible for. I cannot change your views. I'm not trying to change your opinions. I just wanted to give you some information and some little bit of tidbits and facts and fun facts about something that I know really well. We will discuss some things that I found to be a little pertinent, quite interesting, a little controversial, and definitely comical. Society today, we'll go over some statistics, we'll look at some pros and cons, fun facts, and then we'll ask, well, what does Dr. Phil say? Society today is so amazingly different. Advancement in technology and just the advancement in men and women and the way that they think and the way that society just goes along as a social norm today is so different than it was 20 years ago. Vast majority of couples actually do live together before they actually get married. It's an astounding percentage actually. It's about 30 to 40% of couples nationwide actually live together before they get married. There was an amazing increase from 1965 to 1985 in cohabitation. There was a 400% increase. So I'm not quite sure what happened during that time. I know that during that time there was a lot of revolutionizing with women's rights and all of that great stuff, and a lot of things came to head, civil rights, and I think a lot of people found their voice and they found their purpose in life. They found themselves comfortable with it enough to make decisions that were suitable for them at the time. According to the Journal of Medicine, according to the Journal of Marriage and Family, the online publication had a study, and their study basically said that cohabitation, there's a 50% decrease in the longevity of your relationship. Said that within the first 5 years, there is a 49% chance of marriage ending in divorce if you cohabitate. The CDC also did a study, and the CDC study said that There's a 20% chance, 26% chance of lower marital quality and a 30% chance of actually never getting married if you cohabitate. I went to catholicchurch.org and tried to find some information on religion to see if the notion and people's affirmative beliefs were still intact, and a lot of them are. However, they have just come to the reality that there's nothing they can do about it, and they're not going to push people away from being in church. They would rather have you in church and be a member of the Catholicism or whoever it is that you're a believer than push you away. I saw an interesting article about Pope Francis, and that he actually never really said it's okay to cohabitate, but he didn't say that it was a bad thing. And I thought that was pretty cool that he even said it's okay. I mean, there's 4 million people cohabitating now, living together. I was looking at Women's Health Study, which is this really cool magazine, and first of all, I found it funny that there were no percentages, no real statistics, but they did want to say that the studies that have been occurring over cohabitation are way overinflated. So they think that, there's a lot more that goes into these studies. They're looking at age of people, and they're saying, yes, if you're younger and you cohabitate, of course you're going to have a greater chance of breaking up because you're young, you're immature, you don't have the mindset. So they're saying that a lot of the studies out there are just overly inflated, and that it's just the way of the world now. There's lots of pros and cons to cohabitating. First of all, pros, obviously money. If you can split everything, it's a bonus. Also time, you get to spend a lot of quality time with your pre-spouse. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, we have not decided that yet, but you really get to spend a lot of quality time with them. You also get to learn about their habits. You get to learn who washes the dishes more, who leaves more crumbs on the counter, who makes that like Picasso thing with the toothpaste in the mirror every single morning, or that's just my house. And then you actually get like a trial run of marriage. So it kind of gets you comfortable and gets you into the position of, well, who's going to be the homemaker, who's going to be the breadwinner, etc. There's lots of cons still. It is against religion. It is against the Bible. It's unstable. It's unreliable. It's really easy to walk away. There's no document keeping you there, which means you don't have to try as hard. And then, of course, some people just flat out say it takes the fun out of marriage. I found some really interesting fun facts. They're saying cohabitation, of course, you have a higher divorce rate. They're also saying a higher risk of separation. They're saying there's a higher rate of cheating. That men who cohabitate earn less money. Women who cohabitate make more money. There's more alcohol issues. There's a higher risk of depression. And they were saying, of course, which makes sense, that women who cohabitate, who have children, make less money. But that's obvious because they've chosen to stay at home, sacrifice their lives and themselves and their future for the wealth and goodness of their children. Dr. Phil has a blog, and I thought, who better to ask about this topic than Dr. Phil? Duh, I could have asked Oprah, but I went Dr. Phil. So Dr. Phil's blogger, he asked all of his audience members, his bloggers, this main question, and I want to ask you this main question too, but I'll ask you towards the end. But basically, Dr. Phil says, look, 70% of couples in the US are living together. 20 years ago, this would have been unheard of. Nowadays, people don't even bat an eye. They hear about a couple living together, it's as common and normal as checking your email. But he asked this question of his bloggers, and half the bloggers said this and half the other bloggers said that, and I found it very interesting that in 2014 it still comes down to the Bible says it's wrong, but what do you do as the new generation? That was the consensus. So the question of the day from Dr. Phil, and I'm going to ask you, is if you have to test out your relationship by living together first, then there must be something wrong. So think about it, all right? Doesn't relate to everybody, but think about it. Yeah. My answer to that, Dr. Phil, Nothing was wrong with my relationship. We just decided to live together because we really liked each other and we really just wanted to see if it would work. That's my answer, Dr. Phil. So, to conclude, there's many different reasons why people actually cohabitate and live together. There's financial benefits, there's quality time together. You and your partner should make a decision that not only both has your both interests at heart, but what's best in the long run. Longevity and happiness are some of the ultimate goals in life, whether you live together or not. And this decision should not be considered lightly. You should outweigh the pros and cons, and you should take a deep look at your own personal beliefs and your own virtues. So don't make an unrealistic decision in hopes for realistic actions. Think it through, decide carefully, and proceed cautiously. And most of all, live happy. So I want to thank each and every one of you for giving me your undivided attention, and I really appreciate you being here. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and whether you decide to cohabitate or not, I hope that you have a long, happy, rewarding marriage like I have. Thank you. I'm going to leave the room. I'm going to let you all